Most EV drivers have done this. You pull into a fast charger, plug in, and watch the numbers climb. 10%, 30%, 60%. And then, right around 80%, something changes. The speed drops, the percentage creeps, and you're standing there thinking, what is happening? So you wait. You figure, I'm already here. Might as well fill it up. That decision, that one habit, is costing you more than you realize, and almost nobody talks about it. Here's the mindset most EV drivers bring to a fast charger. Charge as much as possible while you're stopped. It makes sense on the surface. You're already there. The car's already plugged in. Why leave anything on the table? But that logic comes straight from the gas station, and EVs don't work like gas stations. With the gas pump, you fill at the same rate whether the tank is at 10% or 90%. The speed doesn't change. The cost per gallon doesn't shift. You fill up and go. With a DC fast charger, the rules are completely different, and most drivers don't find that out until they've wasted dozens of hours waiting for charging stations, wondering why the numbers stopped moving. This is where the mistake begins, not at the charger, in the assumption you bring to it. What happens after 80%? To understand why this matters, you need to know what's actually happening inside your battery and when that percentage climbs past 80%. Every modern EV uses a lithium-ion battery pack, and those batteries follow what's called a charging curve. It's not a straight line, it's a deliberate engineered slowdown, and it exists for good reason. In the early phase of charging, roughly 10 to about 60 or 70%, your car operates in what's called constant current mode. Your charger pushes power in at a high, steady rate. This is where you see those big kW numbers. This is where a 150 kilowatt charger actually behaves like a 150 kilowatt charger. You're adding miles fast. Then, somewhere between 60 and 80%, your battery management system shifts gears. It moves into constant voltage mode. Voltage stays fixed, and current starts to taper. The kilowatt number on the screen drops, sometimes dramatically. A charger that is delivering 150 kilowatts can fall to 40 kilowatts, 25 kilowatts, or even lower on the exact same session, at the exact same station. Why? 4 things are happening simultaneously. First, voltage protection. As cells approach their maximum safe voltage, even a small overcharge can cause long-term damage. The battery management system pulls back current to stay inside a narrow safety window. Second, heat management. Fast charging generates heat, and heat accelerates battery wear. The closer you are to full, the more sensitive your cells are to temperature. Reducing charging power is how your car keeps things a safe range. Third, cell balancing. Your battery pack is made up of hundreds, sometimes thousands, of individual cells. They don't all charge at the same rate. In the final stretch, your BMS slows the charge to let slower cells catch up. That balancing is critical for long-term pack health, and it takes time. Fourth, diminishing efficiency. At high states of charge, more of the energy coming from the charger is lost as heat rather than stored in the battery. Slowing down reduces waste. The result of all 4 combined. You are no longer fast charging. You are now charging. On a fast charger, paying fast charger prices per minute or per kilowatt hour to add miles at the rate of a trickle. Think of it like filling a glass of water. When the glass is empty, you pour fast and nothing spills. As it nears the top, you slow down. Not because the faucet is broken, because physics is in charge now. Your EV is doing the exact same thing. The real mistake, staying too long. Here's the thing, charging slowing down after 80% is not a mistake. That's your car doing its job. The mistake is staying plugged in for it. Most drivers go from 10% to 80% fairly quickly, often in 20 to 35 minutes on a modern DC fast charger. Then they stay. They go from 80 to 85%, 85 to 90%, 90 to 95%, and eventually to 100%. What does that cost? On many EVs, the same amount of time it took to get from 10 to 80%. On some larger packs, it takes even longer. You just doubled your stop time to add the final 20% of range. That last 20% on a 75 kilowatt pack is roughly 60 miles of additional range. You waited 25 to 40 minutes for 60 miles. At the start of that session, you were adding that many miles every 10 minutes. You're not getting a lower charge, you're getting less return for more time. That's the real cost, and it compounds on every single road trip you take. Why this costs you more than you think? Let's put some real numbers behind this. Say you're on a road trip. You stop at a DC fast charger 3 times. At each stop, instead of unplugging at 80%, you wait for 100%. Based on typical modern EVs, that extra wait per stop is 25 to 40 minutes. Across 3 stops, you've added 75 to 120 minutes to your trip, for range you likely didn't need since you were stopping again anyway. Flip the strategy. Do 4 shorter stops, each ending at 70 to 80%. Each stop is 20 to 30 minutes. You stay in the fastest part of the charging curve on every single stop. Your total charging time drops significantly, even though you're stopping more. That's the math experienced EV road trippers figured out a long time ago. Total trip time isn't about fewer stops, it's about faster stops. And faster stops mean staying in the zone where your car charges at full speed. Beyond trip time, there's battery health to consider. Charging to 100% frequently on a DC fast charger and sitting at that level adds heat and voltage stress to your cells in the most sensitive state. Over years of ownership, that stress shows up as range loss, not dramatically on a single charge, but measurably over time. A battery that spent most of its life between 20 and 80% will hold its capacity better than one that's routinely pushed to 100% under fast charge conditions. Your future resale value notices, and so does your real-world range 3 years from now, when it actually makes sense. None of this means you should never charge past 80%. There are legitimate situations where going higher is the right call, and knowing the difference is what separates smart EV ownership from rigid rule following. If your next charger is farther away than your 80% mileage will cover, charge higher. Rural routes, sparse charging corridors, and international road trips through areas without reliable fast charge infrastructure all justify a longer stop. Cold weather changes the calculus too. Winter driving can reduce real-world range by 10 to 30%, depending on temperatures, driving speed, and how aggressively you use cabin heat. A buffer above 80% becomes cheap insurance when the ambient temperature is near freezing. If you're arriving somewhere with no charging overnight, a hotel without outlets, a remote destination, a friend's house without a level 2 setup, charging higher before you arrive is sensible planning. And if you're on a level 2 charger at home the night before a long trip, charging to 100% is completely reasonable. The taper is far less dramatic on AC charging because the power levels are lower to begin with. A 7 to 11 kilowatt home charger doesn't stress the pack the way a 150 kilowatt DC fast charger does. Just try not to let the car sit at 100% for hours before you leave. The rule isn't never charge past 80%. It's know when the extra range is worth the extra time and when it isn't. The smarter fast charging strategy. If you want to drive like someone who actually understands how their EV works, this is the approach. Target 10 to 80% on every DC fast charge stop. That's where the speed is. That's where you're getting maximum miles per minute. That's where your battery is happiest. When you arrive at a charger, aim to come in with 10 to 20% remaining. Not because you're cutting it close, because that's the starting point that gives you the longest window in the fastest zone before the taper begins. Watch miles per minute, not kilowatts. When that number drops into the low single digits on a fast charger, it's time to unplug and go. You're past the efficient window, and the next few percentage points are going to cost you disproportionately. Plan more, shorter stops rather than fewer, longer ones. On most modern routes with reasonable charger coverage, 2 25-minute stops beat one 50-minute stop every time. Your total trip time is lower, your stops feel purposeful rather than stalled, and your battery spends the whole trip in the part of the charging curve it was designed to operate in. Use your car's charge limit setting for daily driving. Most EVs let you cap charging at 70 or 80% by default, with the option to override for trips. Set it and forget it. You won't miss the top 20% on a normal day, and your battery will thank you long-term. This is how experienced EV drivers charge, not by filling up, by topping up efficiency and getting back on the road. Why most drivers don't know this? If this is so clear-cut, why do most EV drivers keep doing it wrong? Because they're treating their EV like a gas car. With a combustion vehicle, filling the tank is always the right move when you stop. There's no curve, no taper, no diminishing return. full is full and full is better. The habit is deeply ingrained in every driver who came from combustion vehicles, which is the overwhelming majority of EV owners on the road today. Beyond that, most people don't understand the charging curve because nobody explains it to them at the point of sale. Dealerships talk about range, they talk about charging speed. They don't walk buyers through what happens to that speed at 82% on a road trip. And here's a psychological pull to a full battery that's hard to resist. Watching the percentage tick toward 100% feels like completion. It feels like you've done the job properly. Unplugging at 78% and driving away takes a kind of discipline that goes against every gas station instinct you've developed over years of driving. The real takeaway: fast charging was never designed to fill your battery. It was designed to save your time. Those are two different goals, and only one of them matters on a road trip. A DC fast charger is at its most powerful and most valuable to you. In the window between roughly 10 and 80%, that window is where you get 150 kilowatts of actual fast charging. Everything after that is the car protecting itself, doing important work, but at a speed that no longer justifies your time at the station. The drivers who get the most out of EVs aren't the ones with the biggest batteries or the fastest chargers. They're the ones who understand where the efficiency is and plan around it. Shorter stops, more of them, consistently staying in the fast lane of the charging curve. That one shift from fill it up to charge efficiently and go changes the entire EV road trip experience. You stop dreading charging stops and start treating them the way they were designed: quick, intentional breaks that keep you moving without slowing you down. If this changed the way you think about charging, drop a comment below and subscribe for more EV content that gives you what actually matters.